Here we
Oh,
go.
we are live streaming Mind Body Reset Day 1.
Day 1.
First in the house speaker coming from LA, California. And we're coming from lots of different places. So we got Toronto here, we got Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, but I know there's people listening in our group because our group's international, which is great because we have today mindset expert Arjuna O'Neill, empowerment coach, and he's a transformational speaker across the globe. But not only this, guys, he's got a story to back all that up. And we don't have a lot of time today. So I just want you to get a little taste of the medicine that Arjuna has to offer. And I only met him a short time ago, but I can tell his story is powerful and his message is powerful. And I think it's perfect for the things that come up as people do set intentions, set these goals, and then they get thrown off. They get thrown off because of emotions, or they get thrown off. They're triggered by something that's happened repeatedly in the past. And so I would love you to talk on this emotional mastery and how to come back from being derailed. But first, I just want to take 30 seconds. There's so much to say about him, but I'm only going to take right now 30 seconds and you can go further. The city of LA recognized Arjuna in 2019 as a nonviolence peace ambassador. He teaches mind elevation in private and public schools, sharing practical tools for emotional and social intelligence. He's gone through a lot of trauma himself, experiences when he was young. And so he grew up without learning this healthy communication. And he never learned how to express his feelings and emotions. So he had to experience these hardships in order to learn the lessons to share with us today. So Arjuna, I'm going to pass it over to you. And if you guys have questions, save them to the end, or you can type them in the chat. Yeah. And also on Facebook, if you have questions, I'm going to be looking in there. Please post them and we're going to get them answered at the end. So Arjuna, it's over to you, my friend.
First of all, thank you, Carrie, for including me. And it's an honor and pleasure to be here with all of you in the Mind Body Reset. And before I start, I would first like to, you can put it in the chats, but I would love to just hear where each individual who's tuning in terms of Mind Body Reset, right? What's our intention today? So let's hear what your intention is today for this call. And one thing you're grateful for. An intention and one thing you're grateful for in particular to your life today, though. In particular to today. One gratitude share. I'll tell you. Mine is, my gratitude share today is that I am able to still show up despite the feelings and the stories that roll in and tell me otherwise. So that's my gratitude for today. Carrie says, my partner and how he treats me like a queen.
I just got served up a great dinner, so, you know.
You know what, because, you know, even off of each other's gratitude, well, I'm going to show you how this works, you know, how I do what I do. Sorry. But when we all embrace each other's great gratitude shares and just share what's grateful,
Oh, Arjuna, can you unmute yourself again? Sorry.
Okay. I was thinking it automatically takes us into our heart. And I'll tell you why the heart is so important when it comes to emotional mastery. So I'm just waiting to hear for a few others, some gratitude shares or your intention for Mind Body Reset.
I'll go. So my intention is to refocus on my health and body. Okay. And my gratitude is that I have a pretty good base to start from. So I'm grateful where I'm at.
Yeah. Hey. That's beautiful. Thank you, Teresa, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, you know, one of the first things I wake up is I tell myself, I get to start where I am. So that's beautiful, and I resonate with that deeply. Heather, you want to share, or no pressure? Or Barbara, anybody want to share gratitude or an intention for this call?
Heather or Barb, did you want to share gratitude?
I can't hardly hear anything.
Oh.
I'm very thankful for Carrie, for sure. She's heard my story, and she's made me get up and keep going every day when some days I haven't wanted to. So thank you, Carrie. And I'm excited about the journey.
Ah, yes.
And I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
No.
Wow.
I think better. Teresa and Barb, can you hear Arjuna?
Yeah, I can hear him.
I did have to turn my speakers up.
Okay.
Okay.
So your mic might be a little bit far from your mouth, Arjuna. Just, I don't
Okay,
know.
let me look at this. You know how it goes. That's how you know when it's going to be good.
That's good.
That's how you know when it's going to be good. Let's see, headphones. Okay, we're good.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me? No. All right, I'm gonna keep working with it. 1 second. Can you hear me now? We back? Okay.
Unless it's mine.
I think it might be yours, Heather, because I think we all hear him.
I can hear him. Yeah, I can hear him
You might-
fine.
You might have to
hold
come.
on a minute.
Yeah. Oh,
It was mine. Sorry.
no worries. It's all part of it,
Sorry.
right? This is perfect because what usually happens, right? We run into a glitch in life, so I'm just gonna roll right into the story right here.
Okay,
We
go.
run into, so think about it, Heather, right? Something happens in our life. There's a little conflict, and it triggers an emotion, right? Oh, I can't figure it out. I'm stuck, and then it pulls us out of the intention, right? It pulls us out of the vibration or the idea that we have set up for ourselves. So it's like being able to look at our story and notice the type of emotional charge we get when we run into discomfort, roadblocks, or challenges. And like you said, Teresa, being able to start exactly where you are. So when things come up, when you wake up, whatever is present in that moment is where we get to start doing the work. And then from there, we address whatever our intention is we want to create for ourselves, right? But you have to address what's present in the moment. So a little bit about me real quick, and then I'm just going to roll into the power of emotion, dealing with our emotional intelligence, also known as emotional quotient, which is described as EQ. They say, and I'll get more into that, but so trauma has been a story of my life. And some of the things I may share, I just want to put a disclaimer, it may be triggering. So if you hear something, you're just like, well, take a deep breath and let me know. It brought something up. I won't get too deep into it, but when it comes to mind, body reset, the reason why I'm sharing this is because when it comes to the mind, the body, and then resetting, it all has to deal with the nervous system. Our nervous system, the way we process and hold things. So when my mother was six months pregnant, from the time she carried me all the way until I was born, she was abused by my father sexually, physically, emotionally. And so I came out of the womb into that space. I was sexually abused as a little boy. A lot of things from there, physically abused, turned 17 in the mental institution because of the abuse. It never got addressed. Nobody really asked me how I felt. At 19, I was fatally shot in the femoral artery where I bled out, made the news as a dead body leaving the scene. And so when I got to see myself leaving the crime scene, I knew, but I got a second chance. I knew there was something big here. I could have chose to take the victim mind state, just say, oh my God, here I am, another person. Life just dealt me a really crappy hand. But I knew there had to be something bigger. I just felt it. And so I say this because sometimes we feel like we get that innate feeling that there's something bigger about our lives. And what usually happens is we're the only person that has that feeling, right? You start telling people around you, you're like, oh, Teresa, I don't know, that sounds pretty, I see you doing this, or Heather, I see you doing this. And you're like, but that's not what's calling. That's not what speaks to my heart. And that can trigger all types of emotions and feelings. So what I want to share is really more important right now, I think, in this moment, especially the times we're in. When it comes to mind-body reset, we all have a story. You said it well, Heather. You said, Carrie knows my story. Now, usually what happens though when we have a story, we identify with that story so well, right? I'm not saying that's the case with you, but this was my journey. I identify with all of my traumas and the stuff that happened to me, everything that was put on paper. I was like, that's who I am, right? That's who I am. I'm this guy that did this, that had this happen. And so when I stepped into a room, I was just a traumatic experience. But I didn't realize what we don't sometimes consider is the story you hold carries a certain frequency. The story you hold, it transmits a certain energy. So you can show up here with mind, body reset, like, yeah, I'm ready to do this, I'm here. But if that's not the story that you're actually telling yourself, right, that energy is what's going to sit on the screen, right? What you're actually thinking about yourself is what's really going to show up in the mind, body reset. So we get to look at where is our emotional state, right? What feelings and emotions am I carrying? Because I can sound, right? I can use all the words to sound politically correct or to sound appealing to all of you. But if my energy, right? Like you could feel the energy that I'm carrying. Even though I just talked about all those traumas, I don't feel like a bag of trauma. I'm aware of my energy, right? I'm aware of what's present in me. And so that's going to be like the key piece, because when you show up for yourself, because we're doing it for self, right? So we can affirm things, but can our affirmations, can our mindset, can our thinking support what we're affirming for ourselves? So in that reset, right? Mind, body, in the reset, what we get to do is have that opportunity to reset. And I like to start from the reset perspective, from resetting my nervous system. So being able to look at what story am I holding? What story am I carrying? And then where do I need to make any adjustments in my thinking, in my language, in my feeling? And at the end of the day, you know what they say, it's either love or fear. Love vibrates at a much higher frequency than fear, and we all have the power to tune in to a certain frequency every day, just like a radio station. Regardless of how you may be feeling, once you have that awareness, it's your job to figure out how to fine tune that channel. And that may be a different set of practices. Carrie has offered some, from just talking to Carrie, I know she has certain practices and certain tools that she uses. And I'm sure she's probably shared them with you, but whatever it is, meditation, cacao ceremony, mindful walks, dinner with the hubby, or telling the loved one, like whatever brings the frequency to a higher state, right? That is how we get to the fulfillment of our hearts. And we're all looking for fulfillment. They say happiness, but happiness is a beautiful place. But what we want is deeper than happiness, is fulfillment, because fulfillment is heart deep, that's soul deep, right? And so when you're in a state of fulfillment, regardless of what life throws at you, you're like, hey, I understand that these are just circumstances and these are just experiences that I'm having, right? And I don't allow that experience to take the fulfillment of me living an abundant and beautiful and joyous life. So it's not an overnight process. I'm sure you all have learned along the way. But the beautiful thing is, I tell myself all the time, Arjuna, where have you seen a book or a documentary or any information about a human being that has figured this thing called life out? And so I always tell myself, well, give yourself some slack, right? And where did any of us wake up today signing a contract that we have to be the same version of ourselves as yesterday? If you didn't sign a contract, that means you get to take that story. You can, however you want to do it, dissolve it, rewrite it, edit it out, create a new one, because it's your well-being. At the end of the day, no one says you have to be attached to that story. So what they say about emotional intelligence, and if I'm saying anything so far, because I'm rolling, I'm in the flow. I usually just channel what comes through. Drop something in the comments. If I said something that we can go back to, that was an aha moment, you're like, Arjuna, wait, that's big. I need you to go back to that. So I'll leave room for that. But I just want to roll into the emotional intelligence and why it's so important when it comes to emotional mastery. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with emotional intelligence. I'm just going to break it down. I got my notes right here just so you know if you're looking down. I like to be prepared. Emotional intelligence, also otherwise known as emotional quotient. That's how they measure emotional intelligence through emotional quotient. So if you have a high emotional quotient score, if you did an emotional intelligence assessment, that just shows, and it can change depending on where you are in your life. Is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, emphasize with others, and overcome challenges and diffuse conflict. Now, a lot of times when we hear these things, we think externally. I always like to share this information from the internal perspective because usually we're our first conflict, right? It's not the person out there, it's how we deal with self. And then when we see ourselves a certain way, then we allow the other person to be whatever it is we want to tell them, and the mind supports it. And we don't even need to go into that whole story. So we're just going to keep the frequency up here. But benefits of improving the emotional intelligence. When it comes to success in life, EQ, they say EQ matters just as much as your IQ, right? People that are very intelligent, that are very good at building things and designing things and are geniuses, but usually they say it's the person with the high level of emotional intelligence that becomes a successful person. We've known people that are great at doing things, but they can be not so happy and kind people. We know where that takes you in life. So these are some of the benefits when you improve your emotional intelligence. Stronger relationships, you're more likely to achieve your goals, to see that if you're going to school or work or even doing this mind body reset. Help connect with your feelings. Turn intention into action, right? If you have these intentions, some of us have goals and we don't actually execute. We wonder why. Sometimes it has something to do with our emotional fortitude. And make informed decisions about what matters most to you. So I'm just going to break down the defined 4 attributes of emotional intelligence. Is there's self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. I'll say those one more time. Self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. And I'm just going to tell you real quick how those apply to my journey and why I'm here today. So self-management, you're able to control impulsive feelings and behaviors, manage your emotions in healthy ways, take initiative, follow through on commitments, and adapt to changing circumstances. For self-management, after I was shot, I was paralyzed for a year. The doctors, the physician, the lead physician who was known all over Michigan for being one of the best in his craft, told me I would never walk again. Says, Arjuna, it's a wrap. Due to the severity of this injury, you'll never walk again. So you can imagine the type of feelings. I was only 19. So you can imagine the type of feelings, the depression, the blame, all the stories, everything. But working on my self-management, how I was able to deal with those feelings, the behaviors, the stories, how I talked to myself, the way I treated myself, right? It was more important than what the doctor said. So in our lives, in this whole mind-body reset, people are going to share whatever they're going to share with you, but where are you with it? How are you managing your thoughts, your perspective, your feelings, your intention behind the mind-body reset initiative, right? Because not everybody, what happens is people hear us say things, but they can't see or feel what you're feeling on the inside, right? And so we usually get people's perspectives or projections based on what they hear, but not really knowing what Teresa's actually feeling though, right? You could feel you have this 100% in the bag, but I can hear you say something and be like, well, based on what you're saying, Teresa, this is what I think. So really being able to really know how you manage yourself and how you hold yourself, regardless of what you hear out there, huge. It's going to play a big part in the way we show up in the world, and not just with mind-body reset, our relationships, our family dynamics, right? If you're standing in the line, you got to go do the DMV, or especially now with all of the, with the new flu out, things are changing. How are we allowing these circumstances to cause us to pivot and see things in the world and project us to say certain things that we normally probably wouldn't say, right? And so that can literally shift you out of a certain intention or a certain vibrational frequency that is actually helping you attract. And so then you start attracting things that we don't want. We're wondering why things are showing up. So I had to be very mindful of the way I thought and processed emotions after being shot. Self-awareness was my second. You recognize your own emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behavior. You know your strengths and your weaknesses and have self-confidence. So self-awareness. I knew that the doctor, God bless his heart, yes, he's extremely educated, but he didn't know, right? He didn't know how long I've been dealing with emotional trauma. He didn't know how long I had been dealing with suffering. He didn't know my level of resiliency. I understood that. So I had to just make sure that I maintained my beliefs. I had to make sure I maintained and nurtured that level of resilience that I knew that I was going to get through this, regardless of what they showed me on medical paper. They gave me a stack of paper that was about the size of a nice school book of all the reasons why I would never walk again, right? So it's my belief versus scientific medical belief. Technically, you're like, well, who are you going to go with, right? Just from a personal perspective, you're like, well, you believe the doctors before you believe yourself. But then we also understand that medical history hasn't always been 100% accurate. And sometimes we have things or we have truths in us that's so strong, but depending on how your emotional state is and where you are mentally, where you're going in life, how things are impacting you, we can let certain things override that truth that we know that's deep in us. And then that's where the conflict happens, because you're like, I feel this, but for whatever reason, I'm choosing to entertain that. Why is that, right? These are questions we need to ask ourselves, right? And hopefully none of us have to end up in a catastrophic situation in order to really trust and believe our deep desires, right, Roberta? Like, we just got to know it. Despite what science may say or what that person or whatever the census says, sometimes because we're all unique and we all have our own unique coding, right, in life. So I just want to say that. Then social awareness was my other piece. Your empathy, right? Social awareness deals with your ability to be empathic, to empathize with someone. Not sympathy, but empathy. Literally put yourself in another person's shoes. You can understand the emotions, needs, and concerns of other people, and you're able to pick up on emotional cues. You can feel comfortable in social settings like this. I am totally comfortable with sharing my stories, regardless of how they may sound or how it may look to you. Have fully embraced my story, but I also know it's just a story, and I am not my experiences, and I am not my worst mistake. Sometimes you got to coach yourself. So, with all that being said, also with social awareness, it allows you to recognize the power dynamics in groups and in organizations and other settings. Our social awareness usually is where we find ourselves. Some of us become people pleasers or thinking we have to be a certain way in order to be socially accepted. But that creates conflict as well, right? Because sometimes we go against our true nature. And so really just all I'm doing right here is just sharing things for us to just look at, right? Just things that we probably all go through as human beings. These are human experiences that we don't often talk about, but we get to look at these things. And as a team, as a collective, these are things we get to look at within each other. That's why I ask us all to share gratitude, because we can all be in that. So from a social awareness standpoint, I can empathize with your gratitude. So if I'm not 100% there, just from hearing Carrie's gratitude, I needed that little extra to get into my heart. And then I was able to sit over here and be like, I wonder what she had for dinner and how much love did he put in that? And how did the hubby feel, the partner feel when he made you dinner? I know he's not the hubby yet. I keep saying hubby. Maybe I'm jumping ahead of the gun, but it's okay. You don't have to explain that right now. But I'm going to leave that alone. Sometimes I see things. They used to call me a visionary. But and then there's relationship management. That's the fourth one. You know how to develop and maintain good relationships, communicate clearly, inspire and influence others, work well in a team dynamic, and manage conflict. So relationship management. These are all four, I'll read them again: self-management, social awareness, self-awareness, and relationship management are the emotional intelligence attributes. These are the four attributes of how it's usually broken down. And there's a whole survey that I have, but usually when you do that survey, it asks you some pretty interesting questions, and people are like, wow, I never really looked at it like that. Because sometimes we'll look at ourselves and like, yeah, I got it. You know, I'm great at communicating my feelings. And somebody asks you, how are you? You're just like, oh, I'm okay. Like that's about five letters. So it teaches you to really use full words. And one last thing I want to say, that I'm going to open it up. The heart. The biggest piece of all of this for me is really leading with the heart, going back to the heart, because the heart knows. It says that, first of all, the heart is 60 times stronger than the brain. It's a powerful tool, but when the brain and the heart work together, it's like you're almost undenied success. You're undenied the fulfillment that we're seeking. Also, there's some other science. I'll just share this with you about the DNA, because our DNA, it's the makeup of our humanness, and love emotions and positive energy causes the human DNA to relax. So when we're in a negative state, and we can reset our human DNA just by the way we think and the words that we share. So love and positive energy, it allows the human DNA to be more relaxed, free, and open. But when we're in a lower vibrational state, negativity, conflict, drama, it causes the DNA cells to tighten and constrict. So I like to go even further than just the mind. Like if we're talking about mind, body reset, we're talking about the body, but we got to bring a little science in there. We got to bring in the cells and the atoms and how these things work and fire off, right? Because most of us are wanting to do things with our body, but we don't even understand how the body works. Some people are still learning about their nervous system. There's the sympathetic, parasympathetic, fight, flight, or survival, digest and ease, right? So learning how to gauge and know when you're in your sympathetic nervous system, because when you're in your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, or survival, the cognitive behavior mechanisms, the body shuts down. It's only to do three things: survive, run, or fight. So when it's time to create conflict resolution, or you to sort out a situation, the body's not in that state, and there's nothing you can do about that unless you figure out how to reset the nervous system. And that's where I use breath, breathing techniques, deep breathing. So just wanted to land with a few of those. These are things that I teach and share all the time, but I want to open it up if there's anything I've shared or anyone want to ask me and I'm open book. You can ask me anything about the traumas I shared, or how I was able to move through it, or how did I develop this gorgeous smile and this high vibrational energy. Yeah, it's okay to speak highly of yourself. You'll know when it's ego and when it's not coming from a place of deep ownership. So, but I would love to hear from any of you. If you have anything, I wanted to open it up before we get out of here and just connect. Is that Julia? Oh, hey. That's one of my teachers, by the way.
That's one of my teachers. I just want to acknowledge you. You're amazing. Thank you for the wisdom you shared. I don't have any questions other than maybe, how you're feeling in your body these days. And I think so many of us, like I remember when you got started on your nutrition, you were just like, I'm so excited. This is awesome. But you were so like gung-ho about it because you already had the mindset and the heart tools in place, and you were able to like open your body to that new experience. So maybe talk about how you can start to open your heart to these new experiences, because so many people, they set the intention and then they shrivel away and don't follow through, right? So does that resonate with everyone? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, if I'm allowed to share in particular, some of the isogenic supplements that I got on, yeah, I knew, like you said, I had all the mind and all the affirmations and the emotional, but then there's the body, right? Because it's the mind, body, spirit. It's the full connection. The body still needs the right fuel, the proper fuel, but it also needs the right sources to release, because we carry it so much, and over years of eating a certain way, over years of believing a certain way of consuming foods and stuff. Things, our body holds these things. So releasing certain things, and the isogenics just allowed my body to flush out things that I've been probably holding, I don't know how long, but I could just feel that release. And then when I had that release, it opened up that space. And then it allowed all the good stuff that I had been holding up here to just filter through, right? And so I told you right away, I was like, wow, stuff works fast. And when the body feels good, right? When we feel good in our bodies, we feel unstoppable. Like, you can have a great mindset, but if you feel crappy in your body, let's just be honest. When there's aches and pains, and it changes the way you go about doing things. It changes the way you go about seeing the day. It changes like literally. Sometimes we become antisocial. We don't want affection. We don't, just let me be. So when the body feels good, the mind follows, and you can, yeah, I feel like a machine. A love machine, that is, just to be clear.
I love machine. He's
Yeah.
definitely a love machine.
Yeah.
And you just sound so grounded. So I just want to acknowledge you. You're incredible. Thank you so much. He's also a coach. Like, feel free to offer your things at the end if anyone else has questions. Carrie, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the same thing. Like, I loved how you said, like, everything released and it just fell into your cells, everything in your head, everything that's there just kind of, once the body opened up. And that's such a beautiful way of describing. It's like a sponge, like the brilliance is already there that you already have. When the body's ready, then it filters through it all. So that was beautiful. That point.
I channeled that, by the way.
I know. I felt I had a physical reaction when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how you acknowledge that the heart, like, is so much more than the mind, but when you have them working together, you're unstoppable. Like, I think we've all had moments like that, or phases like that, or weeks like that, generally not ongoing, thank you for that, because that's why we're here, to combine them all. And people like you that shares a story that gets into people's hearts that they can relate to is what helps to connect to their own what's in here. So
yeah. Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you. So tell us a little bit about what you do on, what is this Mastermind mind elevation you're doing?
So basically, I have found a way to take, because a lot of it all starts here, right? A lot of us, we start with our thinking. It's all about how we think, and mindset is what everybody's focused on. You talk about the heart in public, people start looking at you as you're strange, and I get why, right? The world is kind of putting things in our view that kind of has this questioning: should I open my heart? Should I open myself to things that are new, or just even around friends, family right now? Like, so our hearts are what we call guarded, but the heart knows. The heart knows more than the mind. Right? We're still trying to understand the mind, but we know that the heart, for me, when I was dying, my mind abandoned me in panic and fear. And it was my heart that kept beating, that I heard and felt the heart beating through my body. And it reminded me in that moment to pray, meditate, to snap out of the fear of dying and get into the art of being alive and fighting for my life. And so I said, you know what? The heart knows. From that point forward, I said, I will no longer disregard my heart. And if we think about it, right, Teresa, half of the things that we're talking about when it comes to our desires, our goals, what we want, it's the fulfillment of our heart. It's not the fulfillment of our mind. It's what's on our heart. Our minds change. Thoughts are constantly changing. So I'm like, it behooves us to listen to the heart. right? The heart knows. And I'm one of those people that really don't feel that you have to protect your heart. If anything, if you listen to your heart will protect you. It'll let you know, because it's usually the mind that tricks us up, that tells us, oh no, I can change this just by doing this or being this way, and this person will change. But it doesn't usually work like that. And so the heart usually we get the hit, we get the intuit, we get the calling. The heart hears it, but now it's like, hey, mind, I need you to be a servant of the heart. But usually that's where we have the conflict. It's like, my heart is telling me one thing, but my mind is like, if I could just make this work. And the heart's like, hey, listen, follow me on this, right? And so what we realize is, as we continue to live and we do listen to our hearts, we're like, man, if I would have, we have that saying, if I would have just listened 5 years ago when my heart, or if I would have just listened, like, so at some point it's like, just listen. I know it does sound very simple, but it takes work, it takes practice. So mind evaluation in a nutshell is just being able to use your thinking to serve the desires of your heart. How do I take the mind and become the servant of my heart? And that could be just the simplest tweak in our language, the simplest shift in the perspective. Right? Sometimes it's just literally, a lot of the things that we are achieving are just a conscious thought away. But then we got like a simple thought, but then there's this big gap, because there's this whole story that's in between that conscious thought of why I can't accept this thought, why I can't fulfill this thought, because when I was a kid, this happened to me, or because my partner, right? All those, it's just that whole story that gets in between, that simple shift of just, hey, think this, follow through. And that's where the emotional mastery comes. Like, understanding the emotional feelings, it allows you to execute and move past the story. The story is still there, but you still are able to take action. And so, I work specifically primarily with men, but I am a coach. I do work with both genders, or however you identify yourself. But primarily, I've been working with the men right now, just with the times we're in, focusing on men. But I also have a beautiful emotional mastery mastermind coming up. It's a 4-week exclusive series that I'll be doing in February. It's under $300. We'll meet Saturdays, and we'll dive really deep into like the nooks and crannies of how your emotional state and where you are, and how to get through some of the stories or the things that are just jumbled in a little knot. And so that's coming up. If you're interested in anything that I talked about, or just want to get on a call with me and learn, I'll make sure all my information is put into the community. But this is what I do all the time, all day. I live it, I breathe it. I'm constantly a student and learning more about my body, learning about the body. And I just want to close with this, in order, like, we're talking about mind, body reset. One thing I'll say is, when it comes to resetting something, if you think about a computer, when you have to reset it, or your phone, right? When iPhones, when they have to reset, update, they have to reset. So what it's saying is that this device is allowing new information, new programming. So just how you are getting ready to do this mind body reset, you be aware that there's room for new information, new programming, like new experiences. Because if you go into into this process thinking, oh, I'm just going to reset, but you still have the same formula, the same foundation, we're going to miss a whole lot. So you get to basically come in here as a brand new student, a new version of you. And that's the beauty of like how I've learned how to really heal my body. Like, I get to be each day I get to wake up and be a new version. What is life teaching me new about myself, my body, the way I see the world? We're limitless beings. So don't let anybody box you in. And that's about all I got to say.
Absolutely brilliant. I loved it. We're limitless beings. All of you are limitless beings.
Yeah.
Extremely powerful, Arjuna. Wouldn't you say, everybody? put your hands up in the air and shine with us, boys and girls.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time, for your energy, for your medicine, for your downloads, all of it during this the best on the day one to kick us off. So I appreciate you. If everybody else, if you want to write any comments in here or in the Facebook group, any specific comments to Arjuna, you can write them in the Facebook group too. And yeah,
I'll wait if anybody has a question. I want to just run. Like if anything's come through. And I want to encourage you, please, if something is there, because let me tell you, I told you, energy hits the room first. I feel that there's some ruminating thoughts, and I just want to give you the permission and encourage you, hey, ask now, so that way you're not holding that thought and thinking, man, I wish I would just ask that when he was on the call. So you can open up some space. Let's go, sir. Let's go.
I got one. So I know that everybody knows IQ, right? And you can measure IQ.
Yeah.
Well, EQ, what measurements do we have for that?
So the way they measure EQ is through an emotional intelligence assessment. So they ask you certain questions about your feelings. And so the way they ask, they break it down in these 4 categories: self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, and then the relationship management. And so there's certain questions that they ask specifically. And then based on the numbers, whatever that score is, and then it gives you like, oh, okay, you're stronger here, stronger there, or you need improvement here. And so that's kind of how they do it, based on how you answer those questions. And just noticing yourself, noticing how you are. And sometimes we think we know until we are mirrored back. But yeah, that's how they do it.
Cool. I wasn't aware that there was I wrote down the different categories for the different attributes, and just thought, how would you actually, would you ask your friends, how do I grade on these things? Or, just curious. So there actually is a questionnaire. There is a set of questions for us. Cool.
Yeah, and if this is something that you're interested in, Teresa, to go further, what I do have a service where I do a whole 30-minute breakdown. I charge, and I'll just stay here, I charge $100, but I do a whole call with you. You do the survey, we go back, we look at it, and then usually people need a little deeper understanding of, okay, how does this apply to me? And how can I just use that from my experience, but how to work with. I use it with teachers, staff, police, LA, like, it's been a powerful tool because most people don't, right? You hear those things, you're like, but how does that apply to my life? So,
yeah.
So like I said, I can give you that. Yeah.
That's of interest to me for sure.
Okay. Well, we'll link up and then we can go from there.
Perfect.
But thanks for asking too. I knew there was some questions in the room. I've been doing this for a little while now. I know I can see it. You feel it. It's like, ask. It's okay. No pressure, but sometimes we just need that little push. But I want you to, but what I will say though, Teresa, in all seriousness, notice that too as you do the mind-body reset, right? Because if there's something that you feel, but you don't ask it, right? We never know. See, that's what holds us up a lot in life. We don't ask, and it's right there. And there's nothing wrong with asking. Asking is almost, I believe that asking and learning how to ask the right questions, that's self-empowerment. That's the freedom piece. So thank you for asking. But just notice that if that comes up as you do the mind-body reset, if you want to ask, but for whatever reason you don't. Sometimes we have all these different stories, but see if you could lean into that and just say, hey, you know what? I feel like this, but I'm going to ask anyway.
I'll do it.
Roberta, you said you have. Thank you, Teresa.
I do. Now, I missed the first, I'm sorry, I was working, so I missed the first part of the, of your talking. But I just wondered, like how you started that journey of your walking recovery and how long that took you. And like, did you find, like, did you ever reach any plateaus with it and then kind of overcome that and move up from that plateau?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was paralyzed for a year. It was a year where I just laid, and all I did in that year was I took notes. of like, because I couldn't go anywhere. So the mind is constantly filtering thoughts and all these stories. So I have notebooks and notebooks of just journaling. And then what I was able to start doing is noticing my mood. And then I was like, okay, how do I change this mood? Music, certain songs. I stopped listening to certain music and I changed my music. I started studying just the body. I was like, cells, right? What are the things that make the cells repair? Like I started looking at science-based and holistic practices that supported certain things that helped rejuvenate the body, that helped heal the body on a cellular level, not just mentally, but on an internal level. So like when I was talking about the supplements, isogenics, like certain things that we can put into our bodies, give the body to help it work. So I was looking at that. There were moments where I wanted to give up, but I told myself the only way I can get to this other side is I have to continue, regardless of how I feel, right? It's okay to feel what I'm feeling, but I can't let the feeling override the intention of me walking again. I can't let the feeling be stronger than my desire to want to walk again. So it's okay to feel what you feel, Arjuna. It's okay to go through the emotions. But remember, we're going that way regardless. All that can come with you, but we're going to keep going this way. And over time, and then I start finding ways to make it less, I guess, dramatic and stressful for myself. Because my body's already under enough stress. I've already taken my body through so much. So it's like, how can I do this in a way where it feels more loving? It feels more intentional, right? How can I start talking to myself? And sometimes I didn't have it, so I would have to like listen to affirmations, play certain record, call a certain friend, like, hey, Julius, look, today is one of those days. I just need you to pour into me, right? Or you reach out to Carrie. Carrie, today's one of those days where everything in my mind is telling me this whole mind body reset is just not it, right? And you know it's there, but again, and then ask for the support, like ask me questions. A lot of times we will not ask, and for whatever reason we don't ask, there's definitely a story attached to it. But training yourself to get in the mindset of when you feel a roadblock, ask. And so a lot of it came from just asking. Hey, I'm stuck today. Can you show up? So that was how I got past the plateau. And then once I started walking, from there, it was just like, okay, what do I need to do to strengthen my body? Not just my mental state, but my body. What type of foods do I need to eat? You know, the way I eat, the times, the mood, you know. And one other last piece to that was speaking to my body. A lot of times we think everything is based on supplements and things, but you can literally talk your body back into healing. So even as you do the mind-body reset, talking to your body, telling your body it is healed. Even if you don't feel you're in your optimal health, tell the body every day when you wake up, I am moving in optimum health, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And you keep that as your affirmation, and then you just keep going and keep going. And then you do things that align with that support that. And eventually, you'll be there. Takes time too, but you got an awesome crew. I mean, from Carrie to Julie, I mean, right there, I don't even know who else is in the container yet, but just those two alone, I don't even see how you young ladies are going to be able to not do this.
Teresa's also our official coach. Teresa's like the mother of the group.
She's the mother.
Oh.
Mother
Yeah.
Teresa.
Hey, I knew there was a reason why Spirit kept leading me to you. I keep saying your name. I just trusted.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm the elder. I'm one of the elders.
Gotta have the elders in the group. That's where I learned from. So you can be one of my other teachers too. If you're open.
I'd be happy to. We're here to teach each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's it, I'm gonna get out of
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Roberta, for asking that question. I love that you asked and you went there. And yes, Now, I'll just say this, does my body ever have days where it doesn't want to do things? It does. And I love on it anyway.
Mm. Love
So-
on it anyway. There's
Love
a
on it anyway.
there's a phrase to take through the whole reset. You know, take to bed with you tonight. Love on it anyway.
Yeah. So yeah. So Julia, do I share, or you'll share, or Carrie, you'll share my information so the rest of the group can.
I got you covered. Got you
All right.
covered.
Well, I wish you all. I'll probably circle around. I'm in the group now. You'll hear from me. I won't be a stranger. But I wish you all a beautiful, abundant, and successful, because I know you're going to do it, mind, body reset. Remember, new information, new programming. So I'll see you guys on the other side.
Yes. Make sure you
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
with us.
Yes.
Love
I'm already listening. I got my notes. I got it. What does that say up there? Mind, body reset. I'm in it.
Yeah, now you got to go back and listen to this. Go listen to you for the last.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing, right?
Yeah, I love
Practice
it.
what-
Amazing.
Practice what we preach.
Mm.
Exactly. You're amazing. Thanks,
Love
guys,
my
for showing up. Thank you. And I know you're joining us, Arjunas. We're going to see you on the other talks as well. Maybe at yoga tomorrow. Who knows? See you, everybody. Great night.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Arjuna.
Take
Thank
care.
you.